Hello, I'm Jax, and this is Jax Creations. And today on our first video, we are going to be talking about the Marvelous Miss Maisel. Now, the Marvelous Miss Maisel is an Amazon show that started in about, give me one second. According to Google, it appeared in about 2017, and I just recently finished watching all 4 seasons of it. Great. For the show, I think that it's a good show, right? It focuses on the problems of marriage, being your own person in marriage, being, part of a family, and also dealing with being having a sense of self and then trying to still find that sense of self even when it goes against what you've been taught, what you know, and exactly how difficult that is. So, without trying to give away too many spoilers, oops, it follows Ms. Maisel, who is going through a divorce from her husband who cheated in the 50s, right? Already to a rocky start. And it follows her in her journey of becoming a comedian and being a woman in the 50s and of having to break expectations and of becoming her own self and juggling a family, juggling those expectations, juggling her own expectations of herself. And I find it to be a really good show in the way that it deals with things. I find it to be decent in, well, let me rephrase it. I found the show to hit home a lot more often than I thought it would for something set in the 50s from a non-person of color standpoint. And what I really liked about it was that even though it was a period piece, you could easily forget that it was a period piece. You could easily forget how it what I'm trying to say is that it easily reflected problems that you could still face today, right? It still faces problems of women in mostly male dominated areas. It still faces the problems of what expectations people have for different races, different genders, and how when you break them or you tell people how different it is, it shows exactly what happens, exactly how it feels and what's going on. So I really like that. I like that I felt like you could take this piece and put it into any time frame. You could take it and change certain things maybe here or there, and you would still have the same show. You would still have the same writing. And I just thought that that was amazing. I thought that the scenes and shots were amazing. I thought that it was great that they wrote in it and it didn't make me once feel like, oh, I need to be prepared to hear something just extremely wild or rude and racist because it's a period piece. No, I could easily watch this show and not be embarrassed to have it playing if someone walked in, right? And I just found that that was really great writing and that it was just extremely well and good. I feel like they timed the music great. They timed how different problems and solutions were paced and were expected, and how when both Miriam and Joe started to move apart from each other, while the expected thing was for them to get back together, how they both had to evolve into their own person and deal with the anger of each other, deal with the anger of not being that back, deal with the betrayal, right? And so it's just really good writing. It's a really good show. You should watch it if you haven't. And hold on while I look at my notes because I have gone on a tangent just like this notepad. So, one moment, please. Now, as for problems with the show, personally, I don't really have any problems with the show, especially when you consider the timing of the show. If you're one of those people who is like, oh, there always has to be one of these characters, always has to be one of those characters, yet you may find that problem with the show. But I found that overall, it may have been the same problem, but it was presented differently. Spoiler for season 4. Um, Midge is on tour with Shy Baldwin, and Moms Mobley is on stage, right? She's this amazing comedic, right? And she's great. And they're on the Apollo. They're on the stage of the Apollo, and Midge is the one opening for Shy. And Midge is like, oh my God, she's a legend. She's great. Why is she not opening for you? And Moms Mobley is telling her, hey, you got to ask him that. And so I found that it took the problem of being overlooked for race, being overlooked for gender, it took that and did it in a different way. And then it even proposed and showed how it feels from the other side once you realize that perhaps you really weren't the best choice. But you're here now. So what do? You're here now. You have that guilt, but you also still have that expectations. Because Midge finds this out like 5 minutes before she's supposed to be on stage, and she still has to go and get there. So I find that while yes, it did if for the time period and for what has happened around TV shows and medias and movies now, I found that it did bring the question of is this overused, right? Is having only one black character overused? Is having only one gay character overused? Yes, always, all the time, right? Because it's what people expect now. It's media, it's expectations. However, it was done in a way that was easily overlooked unless you're gonna like nitpick it and be deep dive into it, then of course you're gonna be like, oh, it was this, it was that. However, for what it was and for how often we see it, I can say that it was different and that it didn't feel forced like it sometimes does. It felt natural. It felt like it was right. And that's what I think is good about the show. So, overall, it's a show with an interesting comedy line, or let me phrase it. It's a show with an interesting plot that, as well as with an interesting plot, also has tropes and things that are used greatly. It has the found family, it has the found friends, it has the without thinking you've made a friend and finding out that you are in fact not friends. It is an overall good show with overall good writing. So I have this little guy here. I made him. His name is Astro. He's so cute. I know he's so right on camera. But I give the show about I give the show a solid 4.5 out of 5 Astros, and I give it that 4.5 because it does leave you on a cliffhanger, right? It solves some questions, it brings up a few others, but then it doesn't mention, or let me rephrase that. I don't know if there's gonna be another season, but it's brought it up, and I feel like it's gonna be really great when it does come back. So this has been Jack's Creations. This has been my review and the long talk of the marvelous Miss Maisel. And I hope to see you here again next week. Awesome. Thanks. Bye.